So everything is vibrational waveform at its base, even language. DNA is waveform, like the body is waveform in its base state. And they're starting to uncover this language, and it fits absolutely my contention that part of this genetic manipulation was to put into junk DNA what I call biological software programs, and they are basically perception programs. So if you put a disk into a computer and the computer starts to read it, on the screen the computer's symbolic perception is read from the disk. Well, what if we had biological software programs running through from junk DNA, this language they're finding, and we were reading them into a perception of reality? The other key side of this is that there are emotional biological software programs in there that are running all the time. And when you are reading those, then you are in the belly, because they're low vibrational software programs in terms of emotions, because they're all about fear and all the subdivisions of fear, like anxiety and frustration and depression and guilt, all these expressions, different expressions of fear. And if we do not open our minds, I call this the human body-mind computer, biological computer. If we don't open our minds and let the true self in, consciousness, then humans are operating literally in a closed system in which the DNA emotional and perception programs are running and not being challenged by a level of awareness that is beyond the program. So basically, people talk about the blind leading the blind. What humans are is the program leading the program. And it is my view, and this may be shocking to people, even some who've been along this road a bit. It's my view, after 22 years of putting this together, that the vast majority, at least, of humans have been going through entire lifetimes without having a single original thought or emotional response. Now, when you've got psychologists, I mean, Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, talked about this, but others too. When you've got psychologists that say that they can break down the human personality into 12 major archetypes and combinations of them, well, at the level of awareness, at the level of consciousness, at the level of the true self, we are infinite possibility within an infinite reality of infinite possibility. How on earth can you break down that into 12 major archetypes and combinations of them? It's ludicrous. You can't. But what can you do that to? Computer programs. And that's what we are. These archetypal personalities are actually software running, perception software running within junk DNA. Now, put all this together, and that has moved us from a heart-centered society, connected out into a greater level of reality. This is the innate intelligence. This is supposed to serve this, not be the governor of perception. That's why this knows, and this thinks has to work it out. People don't go, my intuition thinks. No, my intuition, and we do this, don't we? My intuition just knows, because instinctively on a subconscious level, we're going to that point of true knowledge, true awareness, no, beyond knowledge. This is knowledge awareness. But what's happened is our point of interacting has gone from the heart-centered society And if you're coming from this, and this innate awareness, this innate knowing, this innate understanding that everything is connected to everything else, then you manifest from that a completely different society to the one that we have. What's the one that we have? They've moved it into the belly. Humans now, gold. I've got a cough. It's not the cough that carries you off. It's the coughing that carries you off it. Now, they've moved it into a belly society. Where does human response come from, overwhelmingly, to events that we face? The emotions. It's an emotional response. It's an emotional reaction. It's not a heart reaction, overwhelmingly, though of course it does happen. It's an emotional reaction. You know, this mass manipulation technique that I called a long time ago problem reaction solution, where they create the problem covertly, tell the people through an unquestioning mainstream media the version of the problem they want people to believe, and then they get the reaction from the people, do something, something must be done, and then they who have covertly created the problem got that reaction, do something, then at stage 3 openly offer the solution to the problems that they have created, which gives them the excuse to change society and advance the agenda that they're following. Now, it's not problem, go into the heart, look at it from the innate intelligence of the heart. It's not even problem, have a think about it, do a bit of research, see what you think. It's problem, reaction, solution. It's the manipulation of an emotional response, an emotional reaction. And what they're doing all the time is manipulating an emotional response to get support or to justify what they're doing. So, for instance, they'll tell you that Gaddafi was killing his own people and what have you, because they're looking for an emotional response. Oh no, we've got to stop him killing his own people. What they don't tell you, of course, is that the rebels were actually put in there, funded and armed by the NATO alliance to cause the problem. And then when Gaddafi's troops start reacting to what they're doing, shooting back at being shot at, then suddenly, oh, look, Gaddafi's killing his own people. Reaction, oh yeah, we've got to stop it. So this is happening all the time. You know, 9/11, ooh, that was, look at 9/11. And those horrific pictures and the towers coming down. Did that take us to here? No, it took people here. And from this gut, what would he say? Gut reaction. You know how people say, what does your heart tell you? What does your heart tell you? Right? But how many times, instead of going, what does your heart tell you? What do we say? What does your gut tell you? Emotional response, emotional reaction. And so what they've done is moved us, not all of us, not everybody, but, you know, the vast majority, they've moved them from the heart, high vibration, which they can't touch. But if we're in the heart, we're untouchable. It's like Radio 1 trying to impact on Radio 2. Can't be done. They're terrified of us going into the heart because it's over. So they move us into their stadium vibrationally. Because not only do they manipulate human response through emotion, they feed off human low vibrational emotional energy. They've turned us into their energy source, because they're an energetic source basically at their core. Well, we all are, but they're much more energetic than we are, because we're much more aware of the holographic, the so-called physical. And so when we eat food, we think we're eating physical food. There is no physical. We're eating holographic food. But the foundation of that food, which we decode into some kind of illusory solidity, is actually a waveform information field. All that these entities do is they feed, they get their energy source, not from a sandwich and a cup of tea, but directly, energetically. They absorb energy in its waveform. And so when we generate low vibrational human emotion, that emotion is resonating within the frequency. That's why we can't see it. We can feel emotion, but we can't see it. Because it's vibrating within another frequency band beyond visible light. And that's the frequency band that these archons, reptilians, overwhelmingly operate in. So every time we generate fear and all its offshoots, we're feeding them energetically.